When people ask me what I remember about the 80s, my typical answer is that it was a lot of fun, but also a little scary. The scary part comes from memories of seeing the cover of multiple Time and Newsweek magazines, fearing that America might go to war with Russia. It didn't help that the Russians were often portrayed as the default villains in movies, TV shows, and even WWF matches. Then there was this 80s flick. A group of high school students calling themselves Wolverines retreat into the wilderness after Soviet paratroopers descend on their small Colorado town. The Wolverines manage to launch an armed insurgency against the communist invaders while also dealing with their own personal trauma, fears, and the end of their adolescence. Featuring a talented young cast before they became stars, it remains a nostalgic classic for 80 kids just like us. So jump in the back of Jed's pickup truck, count your remaining RPGs, and head to the mountains as Chris Adams and I discuss Red Dawn from 1984 on this episode of the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. Well, welcome to the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast, everybody. I am your host, Tim Williams. Tonight, I knew I needed someone to help me analyze this invasion. I needed a co-host who wouldn't quit, a true patriot of cinema. Please give a warm welcome to a true Wolverine, Chris Adams from Retro Life for You podcast. How you doing, Chris? America.
I'm doing good. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good, man. I'm excited to talk about Red Dawn. This is one that I have wanted to cover probably since the podcast started, and I don't know why I kept putting it off, but I'm so glad that I'm doing it. I'm glad I'm doing it now, and I really enjoyed rewatching it. I've rewatched a lot, but I think I watched it a lot just to watch it, but today watching it again for the podcast, I really wanted to kind of take it all in, and I kind of saw it on some different levels than maybe I didn't see it before. So we'll definitely get into that. But let's jump right in. When did you see Red Dawn for the first time? Was this a theater or a rental or cable TV?
I want to say this was a rental.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe it was a rental. I remember seeing it advertised, but didn't make it to the theater to watch it. It's definitely a rental.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't see this one in the theater either. I think this was definitely one that we waited and saw on video. And I don't even think that I don't think this was one I watched with my parents. I think this was one spending the night at a friend's house, the following summer, and their parents rented it from Blockbuster or whatever, and we all watched it. I remember watching it with my friends. I don't ever remember watching this one with my family, but fell in love with it from the very beginning. I mean, gosh, there's so we're gonna get to iconic scenes. There's so many iconic scenes that just flood me with the nostalgia. But when was the last time you watched it before rewatching it for the podcast? You covered it on your podcast, haven't you?
I have, but it's been year and a half ago possibly when I did cover it. But I've watched it even after that. I think I did a double feature. I watched the original, and then I watched the reimagined version, we'll say.
Yeah. Now that was I did watch the remake in theaters. I saw it late when it came out in theaters. I actually liked it when I saw it in the theater, even though it was very different from the original. I mean, there's certain parts that are the same, but it's a very different movie than this.
Yeah, I mean, you have to kind of pay some homage to the original, but you got to make it your own as well, though.
Yeah. So, but I bought the digital 2-pack where I have the original and the remake together, but then I just recently bought the Blu-ray of the original. So that's what I used to watch it for the podcast. But I've seen it. I know I've seen it in the last 5 years, but I've probably watched it 3 or 4 times in the last probably 10 to 15 years. It's one that I'll throw in, maybe not every year, but I'll want to watch it every other year, every couple of years. So
if I see it on TV going through channels, I always stop.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not going to go
And they
past it.
yeah. And I have noticed it more on like AMC or like some of the like the basic cable channels with the commercials. I've seen it on there quite a lot more frequently the last probably 2 or 3 years, probably because of I know when the Ukraine invasion happened, it really became very popular again. So I know I watched it again then
Yeah.
when when it came out when that was going down. So but yeah, let's jump into story origin and pre-production. All of this I learned this time watching it, which is weird because typically when I watch a movie, I will go into IMDb and read the trivia, which, trivia and pre-production are not always the same, but a lot of this I didn't know. So I thought this was pretty interesting. So it began with a script called 10 Soldiers, written by Kevin Reynolds. You may recognize that name because he became a very popular director with Kevin Costner. He directed Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, which is one of my favorites. So
Mm-hmm.
the vision was a modest, taut, anti-war film, a sort of Lord of the Flies set against the backdrop of a guerrilla conflict. It was championed by producer Barry Beckerman and MGM executive Peter Bart, who saw its potential as a small, thought-provoking picture. But in the halls of MGM, a different idea was taking shape. The studio chiefs saw something else. Instead of a poignant little anti-war movie, why not make a teen Rambo? Their man for the job, John Milius, the screenwriter of Apocalypse Now. Milius was a filmmaker famously rejected from military service in Vietnam due to his asthma, an event he said caused him to, quote unquote, be obsessed with war ever since. He was actually the inspiration for John Goodman's character in The Big Lebowski and was known to carry a loaded pistol on set. To reshape the script, Milius found an unlikely collaborator, General Alexander Haig, a former Nixon chief of staff and a member of MGM's board. Together at a conservative think tank, they devised a chilling backstory for the invasion, drawing on Cold War anxieties, the collapse of NATO, and even Hitler's proposed plans to invade the U.S. The story transformed, the conflict shifted from the teens versus each other to the teens versus their oppressors. The once $6 million art film saw its budget nearly triple. Milius, however, saw it differently, later claiming it was, quote unquote, an anti-war movie in the sense that if both sides could see this, maybe it wouldn't have to happen. With the studio rushing for a summer release, Milius had little time to prepare, but for the cast, preparation was non-negotiable. The young actors were put through an intensive 8-week military training course run by the legendary advisor Captain Dale Dye, the same man who would later forge the cast of Platoon in Saving Private Ryan. For one actor, Charlie Sheen, it was an introduction he would see again just 2 years later in the jungles of Platoon. So, of course, we talked about Dale Dye and Charlie Sheen in Platoon, which is kind of wild, knowing that I watched Platoon a couple of years, like maybe a year and a half ago, and then watching it now and knowing like really was only like 2 years difference between these two movies, but he's playing such a different type of character. So,
Yeah.
which I think is pretty cool. So how much of that did you know before going into this?
I knew about the movie, the original title and everything. I remember that
10
from where
Soldiers.
I remember that from covering it before. The only other thing, everything else you mentioned, I don't really recall reading about that. So that's cool information to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then it's funny because when I saw Milius's name, I was like, I know that sounds familiar, but he directed Conan the Barbarian, which we just covered, earlier this year. So and that kind of helped me like watching the movie. I could see some definite director similarities there. So it was kind of cool knowing that he was the one that directed it and co-wrote it too. I didn't realize he had co-written Apocalypse Now, and it's funny because I did watch one of the behind the scenes things on the Blu-ray where it interviews him, Charlie Sheen, Patrick Swayze, Leah Thompson, Powers Booth, I think, and C. Thomas Howell. So it was cool kind of hearing it from his own words about how much he really wanted to make the movie. And, he was like, I have very leftist ideals, but I'm also very conservative in some areas. I'm kind of a contradiction in terms, which I think was kind of good because yeah, I saw a lot of articles where like they feel like it's a very much, right wing, not propaganda film, but very right wing, you know, guns, patriotism, all that kind of stuff that's like in a kind of the Reagan era, which it was, but it also does have like some very even keel, like giving us the Cuban leader like his contradiction or his conflict of emotional conflict of like, he's been there for a while, then starting to realize, are they really making a difference? Is this something he wants to continue? Which I think even as a kid, not really understanding a lot of the politics of it, just, like I said, like a kid just excited to see other teenagers or, kids that are older than me at that point, but teenagers, having to fight for their country and avenging their parents' death and all that kind of stuff. But I remember that scene at the end with the Cuban guy writing the letter, and remember that being like, oh wow, like it's not a villain that I'm used to where it's just like the mustache twirling villain that's all evil. Like he was human as well. So I the ending always stuck out to me as not just being this, the bad guy gets killed at the end. The two real bad guys get killed, but
Right.
I like that his life was spared and that he spared, spoiler alert, he spared killing right then and there Jed and Matt at the end. So I'll let you talk now. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, you definitely see his human side for sure. When you listen to him reading the letter that he's writing, I guess he's writing the letter, right? He's just reading it in his head.
It's just a voiceover.
So he's just kind of letting it be known what he's putting in the letter, and I guess sending back to his wife and everything, how he doesn't want to be a part of all this anymore and wants to be back with her again. And then starts hearing gunshots and everything going off, and he runs outside, and and like you said, he sees Jed come through. He's carrying Matt in his arms. You can see that he's been shot, and you can see Matt's been shot. The guy looks at him, just tells him, motions for him to go on, tells him, "Vaya con Dios," hit the road, Jack, whatever. Go on. Then he just kind of throws his gun down. He's had enough of it. It's really eating up at him to the point to where he doesn't want any part of the battle anymore. And that's a good thing to see in him. I was really glad to see though the other two get what was coming to him.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So so let's jump into casting. We've got a pretty robust cast, but like I said in the intro, this was a lot. A lot of these were kind of unknowns. Well, not unknowns, but like before they really were famous.
I mean, at the time,
hit their fame. Yeah.
Yeah, at the time they may have had one or two under their belt at the most.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think the only one, like at that time, the only one I was probably aware of was C. Thomas Howell because I'd seen The Outsiders. But really, everybody else I wouldn't have recognized until like the following year. Leah Thompson, I wouldn't have known about Jennifer Grey until Dirty Dancing. Kind of the same with Patrick Swayze, Charlie Sheen, of course. A couple of years later. But
I can't remember the order in which they came out, I guess. But as far as Patrick Swayze goes, wasn't he in Soggy Bottom US?
I don't know. Like that's a movie that I saw as a kid, but I don't know. You're thinking of Grandview USA, right?
Yes, Grandview USA. That's why I started
skating.
Started to correct myself.
I was like, he was in that?
No, it wasn't roller skating. I thought it had something to do with racing of some sort. Jamie Lee Curtis was in it. C. Thomas Howell was in it too, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I know which movie. I've never seen it, but but I think there's a scene that I've seen of him in it where he's in a roller skating rink. So I don't really know what it's about, but yeah, they came out the same year, but it was not as well known as this is. So.
Well, I know. I almost said Youngblood. That's Rob Lowe.
Yeah. Well, Patrick Swayze's in that too.
Okay, well there we go. Yeah, so Youngblood was Youngblood.
I think that was 85 though. I think that was the year after that. So.
That was my next question. Was it before or after? Because I wasn't sure of the timeline.
Yeah, gotcha. So, all right, we're talking about Patrick Swayze. Let's start with him for cast. Of course, he received recognition for acting in the drama film The Outsiders in '83. So I guess I had seen. I always forget that he's in The Outsiders, but he wasn't the main character.
Right, he was the older brother, right?
Yeah. Outsiders '83, the miniseries North and South from '85 to '86. His breakthrough came with the romantic drama film Dirty Dancing in '87, and he rose to further prominence in action films like Roadhouse in '89 and Point Break in 1991. Emilio Estevez was actually originally cast as Jed, but had to drop out due to other filming commitments. This was the second of two films that Swayze made with John Milius, the other being Uncommon Valor in 1983. Now, I do remember seeing that, but he has a very small role in that. Like he's in it, but he's not like the main actor in that. That's another really, really good 80s movie I haven't covered yet. One thing I thought was fun that I read that John Milius knew what he had in Patrick Swayze and used him to get the rest of the young actors in line. As Swayze recalled on the documentary I actually watched, Swayze said, Milius is a very intense director. He's a very wonderful director. I love the man, but we had to call him the general. And he called me and he says, Swayze, you're my lieutenant of the art. I'm directing these little suckers through you. So he put a lot of responsibility on my shoulders, and I took it really seriously. And I do know that, like, and from the documentary, like even Leah Thompson says, he was probably the most established of the actors. And so they did kind of lean on him and kind of, look to him for a lot of support and direction. But I think Swayze's recollection of it was it didn't make him very popular or well liked a lot of the time because he was kind of giving all the notes instead of the director. So
Right. Something else you'll get to it in just a minute, but kind of stands out about this. You mentioned C. Thomas Howell as well
mm-hmm.
as Patrick Swayze being in The Outsiders.
Yeah.
We got one more coming up that was in The Outsiders as well.
Yeah. We'll get to him. So let's continue with that theme. C. Thomas Howell as Robert Morris. After making his film debut with a supporting role in E.T. the Extraterrestrial in 1982, he had his breakout role with Ponyboy Curtis in the coming-of-age film The Outsiders in 1983. Following his breakout, he had starring roles in Tank in 1984, which I know you covered on your podcast.
Love that movie.
Grandview USA, like you mentioned before. 1984, 1984, same year. Secret Admirer in 1985, The Hitcher in 1986. His lead role in the commercially successful yet controversial film Soul Man in 1986 damaged his status as a leading man in Hollywood. But he did teach the rest of the cast how to ride horses. Leah Thompson said he was definitely like the cowboy of the group. So
he has a movie he did later on. This is not in your wheelhouse. I believe you just do 80s, right?
Just 80s, yep.
Yeah, he had one that I liked. I believe it was probably early 90s or 1990 or something like that, but it's called Side Out. Actually, it's 1990.
Yeah. I'm familiar with that one. I've seen it.
And I did like that one quite a bit, but nowhere near as good as his role in Red Dawn.
So let's see. And then I did like this. C. Thomas Howell said in USA Today in 2012 that he hears someone scream Wolverines to him at least twice a week in real life. He said about 40 times a day through Twitter. He said in real life he doesn't shout back, but on Twitter I cannot help typing a Wolverine with a few exclamation points on it, which I thought was great.
All right, so look, I know you and I both met him at the Comic-Con.
We did.
Now, did you ask him anything about that Wolverine bit?
I don't honestly, I was trying to remember like what I talked to him about when I was there, and honestly I can't remember. I mean, I know I told him like I was a fan. I loved a lot of his 80s movies that I remembered. I remember mentioning Outsiders, Red Dawn, A Secret Admirer. I really didn't get to talk to him for very long. Not as long as I kind of wanted to, but he was very a great guy. It was a good encounter. So
no doubt. I wanted to ask him about the Wolverine thing, and I thought better of it. I thought he's probably heard it a million times and does not want to hear one more time anybody say Wolverine to him. So instead, I asked him. I said, "Did you see the remake by any chance?"
Oh, I remember you telling me that. Yeah.
He goes, "No, didn't look at it." I said, "Well, you didn't miss a whole lot. Don't worry." I want to be cool about it at least. I mean, I did like it. I won't lie, but I mean, it's wasn't as good as the originals.
No. I did think this was cool. I loved his Star Wars cap that he wears early in the movie, and I always wanted one like it. But that was actually John Milius's idea as a nod to his friend George Lucas. So I thought that was pretty cool. That little homage there. Then we got Leah Thompson as Erica. She's best known for her roles as Lorraine Baines McFly in Back to the Future film trilogy we've covered. She was also in Howard the Duck we've covered. She was in Some Kind of Wonderful in 1987. Other films with which she is known include All the Right Moves, which we've covered, Dennis the Menace in 1993, and The Beverly Hillbillies in 1993. Leah Thompson's great. She's still active, still in the business, still acting. She's got a show on Hallmark right now that my wife is watching. And she's been doing some directing. Like, we're big fans of the show Will Trent. And her husband, Howard Deutsch, I guess should I say it? Howie Deutsch. He's like one of the executive producers and directed like he directed a couple episodes of the first season, and then she's directed a few episodes since then. So, but yeah, big fan of Leah Thompson.
Yep. Fletcher in Space Camp too.
Yes, absolutely. Which I've covered on the podcast. So
And I want to, darn it, I want to, and I haven't got to yet.
Well, all you have to do is ask me because I'll be ready to watch it. I've got the Blu-ray.
I
So.
don't think I won't be hitting you up soon then. If anything,
It's
it'll
funny,
be an
like
extra.
there you go. Yeah. The funny thing with this was typically like here recently, I've not been like I'll mention an actor, but if we've covered it on somebody else on a previous podcast, I won't do their filmography. But most of these we've talked about already, and I was like, I can't just skip over them, so I just try to make them very brief. So on to another one we've covered already. Charlie Sheen as Matt. He followed in the footsteps of his father, Martin Sheen, in becoming an actor. He starred in many successful films, such as Platoon, which we covered in 86, Wall Street 87, 8 Men Out in 88, Young Guns in 88, which we've covered, Major League in 89, which we've covered, Hot Shots, The Three Musketeers in 93, another favorite of mine, and The Arrival in 96. I did not realize that this was actually Charlie Sheen's feature film debut. I didn't realize this was his very first movie.
Wow.
Because I know he's in The Wraith, but I don't know if that came out the same year.
I'm not sure.
I just thought of that actually. So.
I can definitely find out real quick. I'm really big into it. I love his cameo in Ferris Bueller.
Yes.
He has. Where speaking of another cast member, you'll get to in a minute as well. But I love his cameo in there, what he plays in that and everything. He has an uncredited movie thing on 74 called The Execution of Private Slavic, and then Red Dawn is Matt Eckert in 84 being his first, I guess, real movie debut.
Okay, when did The Wraith come out? Same year?
Wraith, let's see, Red Dawn was 84. The Wraith came out in 86.
Wow. Okay.
So his cameo in Ferris Bueller and his role in Lucas was all in 86, as well as the TV series Amazing Stories.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, he was busy in 86.
I think he was coming off The Wraith when he started filming Platoon. Now that going back to that episode, I remember talking about that.
Yes, because Platoon also in 86, Wisdom in 86, A Life in the Day is a short film in 86. He stayed busy in 1986, to say the least.
Yeah. I mean, Platoon was really his breakout role, and that's where he really started getting a lot of momentum from that. All right, moving down the line, we got Darren Dalton as Daryl after Red Dawn. His first made-for-television movie was Brotherhood of Justice in 86 as a rebellious teenager, and he appeared in the short-lived TV ensemble drama The Best Times in 85. He had TV guest appearances in the late 80s on Highway to Heaven, Quantum Leap, Alien Nation, and as General Custer on Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. So that's Daryl Dalton.
And let's not forget, what was one of his earlier films? The Outsiders.
Oh, he was on. Okay, that was the one. Outsiders. Okay, I knew he was in there, but I didn't have him on notes. So sorry about that.
Yeah,
missed that one.
That's what I told you. I kind of touched on earlier. I said you'll talk about him in a minute.
Yeah. So then we got Jennifer Grey as Tony. She made her acting debut with the film Reckless in 84. Had her breakthrough with the teen comedy film Ferris Bueller's Day Off in 86. And of course, she earned worldwide fame starring as Frances Baby Houseman in the romantic drama film Dirty Dancing in 87, which earned her a Golden Globe Award nomination. It's no surprise. It's very well known that her and Swayze did not get along on this movie at all. There was even in the original script, there was supposed to be they were supposed to have this romantic relationship in the movie that didn't work because they didn't get along. It's kind of alluded to a little bit in her death scene, spoiler alert. But, and of course, they really never thought they were going to be in another movie together. And then Dirty Dancing happened. So you can listen to our episode on Dirty Dancing to hear all the tidbits about that one.
Listen to the older episodes.
Yeah, there you go. They're still good.
They're still great.
Not on video and not edited as well. And I didn't have professional microphones. But anyway.
Still great.
Hey, I started with what I had. Next on the list, we got Brad Savage as Danny. While known for Red Dawn, Savage also appeared in many TV shows in the 70s and 80s, including Salem's Lot, Chips, Mork and Mindy, Emergency, Fantasy Island, and my favorite, The Love Boat. Because if you were a star of the 70s and 80s, you were on an episode of The Love Boat at some point.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And then we've got Doug Toby as Aardvark, as he's listed in the credits, Mondragon. I don't have anything about his filmography. This is really the only thing he's known for, but I didn't want to leave him completely out. And then Powers Booth as Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Tanner, United States Air Force, with his thick Texas accent. Known for his performance as Curly Bill in the Western Tombstone, 93, which is what I've known the
Yeah.
most from, and Alexander Haig in historical drama Nixon in 95. Other notable films include Southern Comfort in 81, Blue Sky in 94, Sudden Death in 95, Frailty in 2001, and Sin City in 2005.
Rapid fires. Gotta throw rapid fire in there.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was that Brandon Lee?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Sure enough.
I got that one right. All right, good. So yeah, I like Powers Booth in this. I mean, there's if you listen to some of his or read some of his interviews, he wasn't as happy with the final product because the way his character was written originally was a little bit more nuanced and had more depth, and he felt like he really didn't it didn't come across as well as he would have liked. But I still like it. Even when I rewatched it today, I thought like it was enough. His character came in at the right time, and I think he lasted long enough. I wish there was a few more scenes of him kind of teaching them some things, which I think is where the movie, and we're kind of gonna don't want to get into it too much, but where the movie kind of falters and why it's not what we would consider a great movie storytelling wise is there's a lot of things in the battles that just don't make sense. Like, I don't know where they keep getting their weapons from because you never see them like raiding anywhere or like, where they're getting ammunition, any of that kind of stuff. So
there's a few holes in this movie that they don't really explain. You just got to make up your own thing about it. Like them walking into town under no pressure.
Yeah.
Stash their weapons and walk straight into town like nothing's ever happened. They don't have, you're telling me they don't have people at the perimeter of the towns watching for things?
Yeah.
They're supposedly being looked for, right? But the soldier in the drugstore on the second story looking down at him doesn't see, and they look right at him.
Right.
Sees
I mean, it's not that
him.
big. Yeah. It's not that big of a town. And I'm sure they've, looked at everybody in the town. So when you see 3 new faces obviously show up, that's going to raise some red flags.
And then outside the re-education camp when they're talking to the father through the fence.
No, there's no guards walking along the fence.
No
like,
perimeter.
How do they get on? Yeah.
I mean,
so
you got to make up your own decisions of what's going on and what's not to some of these things. But I mean, it's a movie.
Yeah. It's still great. I still loved it.
Now, are you going to mention anybody else, actor wise?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I've got a few more here.
All right.
So we got Harry Dean Stanton, which is really a cameo more than less.
I was hoping you'd bring him up because I had no idea that was him.
Oh, really?
Yes, I did not know that.
Yeah. His career spanned more than 6 decades. He played supporting roles in films including Cool Hand Luke in 67, Kelly's Heroes in 70, Dillinger in 73, The Godfather Part 2 in 74, of course, Alien in 79, Escape from New York in 81, Christine in 83, Repo Man 84, One Magic Christmas 85, Pretty in Pink 86. I can go on and on and on. He's in a ton of movies. Just trust me on that. I mean, I've still got a huge list behind that. But
I'm looking at his picture, and the first thing that comes to mind when I see his picture is Fire Down Below and The Green Mile.
Yeah, The Green Mile is one of my favorites that he's in, for sure.
Walking the Mile.
Yep.
But Fire Down Below, though, he's playing the little town. Well, he's not the town drunk or anything, but I mean, he's the one that gossips, I guess, or something. He's paying attention to everything going on and telling and stuff. But yeah, I didn't know that was him as Tom Eckert, though. It never clicked with me.
Yeah. Once again, he's just in that one scene. It's very much like a cameo scene that he's there. So Ron O'Neal as Colonel Ernesto Bella, the Cuban Revolutionary Army. He's best known as Superfly from the 70s blaxploitation movies, but I thought he was great in this. William Smith as Colonel the Colonel.
Strelnikov.
There you go, Strelnikov. He had prominent roles in films like Any Which Way You Can in 80, Conan the Barbarian 82, and Rumblefish in 83. Vladek Shaybal as General Brachenko, the Soviet Army. I don't have anything on him at all, but he definitely looked like a Russian general that you would expect to see in one of these movies. I had to mention Frank McRae as Mr. Teasdale. He's the teacher at the beginning that gets like the first casualty of the movie. He was a defensive tackle for the Chicago Bears in the 1967 NFL season. Among his acting roles are bank robber Reed Youngblood in Dillinger in 73, we mentioned with Harry Dean Stanton. He was the shouting police captain in 48 Hours in 82. a role he later parodied in Last Action Hero in 93 and Loaded Weapon 1 in 93 as well. He was James Bond's friend Sharky in License to Kill in 89. He was also in Batteries Not Included in 87. He appeared with Sylvester Stallone in Fist in 78, Paradise Alley in 78, Rocky 2 in 79, and Lock Up in 89. He was also the protective trucker in The Wizard in 1989. Frank McRae, I mean, that's not a name that I would recognize, but anytime I see him, I know exactly who he is.
Know who
and
he
his
is.
Very distinctive voice as well. Like, you know, him walking out to the soldiers. I mean, once again, another iconic scene like that.
Lockup stood out to me the most.
Yeah. Yeah, I love Lockup. That's another good one. Haven't covered yet. And then the last one I'll mention is Lane Smith as Mayor Bates. Once again, another cameo. He's only in like 2 scenes. Well-known roles include newspaper editor Perry White in the ABC series Lois and Clark: The Adventures of Superman. He was also in the 1984 NBC TV series V. He was Coach Jack Riley in The Mighty Ducks, District Attorney Jim Trotter in My Cousin Vinny, which is, of course, what I know him most from. U.S. Congressman Dick Dodge and Distinguished Gentleman with Eddie Murphy in 1990, I think. He was Grantland Rice in The Legend of Bagger Vance, and U.S. President Richard Nixon in The Final Days, for which he received a Golden Globe Award nomination. But
you know where else I know him from?
What's that?
What you said, My Cousin Vinny for one, but the other one that stands out also is the Pauly Shore movie.
Oh, Son-in-Law.
Keeps calling him Crotch instead of Crawl.
Yeah. That's right. He was the dad in Son-in-Law. I completely forgot about that. But yeah. That's probably that's the one that I would have remembered. But I've seen My Cousin Vinny a lot more recently than I've seen Son-in-Law. But Son-in-Law is funny.
Right.
You know, Pauly Shore is, you know, he's kind of like he was the Adam Sandler of his time. You know what you're going to get. He plays the same character every time. But I've rewatched Son-in-Law in the last probably 2 years, and it still has some funny scenes in it. It's still a good. I think it's a good movie. But yeah, forgot that he was the dad in that. All right, anybody else from the cast that I skipped over? I tried to give everybody their due.
No, sir. I was just hoping that you brought up Lane Smith, Frank McRae, and Harry Dean Stanton. When I knew you were getting all the main ones out of the way, I was like, okay. Yeah. I was like, please tell me he's going to touch on those 3 at least, you know. And then William Smith, of course, which you mentioned. I mean, I liked him from the Clint Eastwood movie. Was it Any Which Way You Can? You said,
yeah,
yeah. Oh, I love that movie.
I remember those. Yeah, was it Any Which Way You Can, Any Which Way But Loose?
It's Any Which Way You Can, Every Which Way But Loose.
There it is. Yeah,
and then he had a couple of some of our favorite TV shows from the 80s. He was a guest on, like MacGyver and the A-Team and so on and so like so.
Yeah. I will say, like, because I think on the the extra feature scene on the Blu-ray, he was actually a Russian linguist, or he was very fluent in Russian, and so he was actually he was also like an advisor for the Russian speaking roles. But the Milius was saying like he really enjoyed the scene where he speaks the whole scene in Russian. Which, going back, I forgot how much subtitles were in this movie.
Right.
Just watching it today, which once again I think was a bold choice before, because I mean, even today, a lot of times it's like they're not. I mean, I think it's becoming more popular today to put subtitles because people are more used to it now. But 80s and 90s, they would just have them speak with an accent but still speak in English. But that wasn't the case in this movie. I thought it was a great, you know, making it feel accurate, even though it's not accurate, but making it feel real by having them speak their natural language, or, you know, speak their language and have the subtitles added some realness to it. So.
Right. And have you ever watched a movie where they're speaking in a different language, but they did not put the subtitles down there?
Every once in a while.
And it leaves you wondering, what are they saying? I want to know what they're saying. You know, why can't...
Yeah. I think it was this one. I don't have this on my notes, but I think I read somewhere that the early prints of this didn't have the subtitles. And one of Milius's director friends was like, that was so bold of you to do the scenes without subtitles. And he was like, I didn't. It was a mistake or whatever. But they were like, well, you kind of knew what they were talking about, but it still made it really good. He was like, but there's some really long scenes. Like if there were shorter scenes, I could see them leaving the subtitles out. But there's a few scenes where like it's real a conversation, you know, like the the Cuban general with the Russian general had their conversation outside of the store that gets blown up. Once again, Jennifer Grey just shows up wherever she shows up. She's leaving a bomb somewhere. I just
Yeah,
like in
and
the
then
same jacket.
and they don't have any knowledge of her
No,
whatsoever doing anything.
no. But I guess everybody that's seen her dies, so they don't have anybody to ask. I guess that's the only thing I can think of. Well, let's see. Because this is an ensemble, do you have a favorite character of the in the cast
You know,
of the Wolverines?
I kind of like C. Thomas Howell's character because I mean he starts off to the point just he's just your normal everyday teenager. I don't want to
Hmm.
say he's timid or anything like that, but he's not.
No.
But he's definitely not violent, and he does not have a military, fueled mind or anything going on.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
then after he finds out, spoiler alert, I guess, that
Hmm.
his father got killed for what he did for him and everything. It's like he changes. It's like it just flips a switch in
Hmm.
him,
Yeah.
and he's just more, you know, gosh, just GI Joe, like all of a sudden, and he's
Hmm.
got that iconic scene where from the top of the ridge he yells out Wolverines and throws the gun up in
Hmm.
the air, after they had saved some people and stuff. Which I always felt they cut that scene too short. Because it's like this feel good, and that music
Hmm.
that's playing behind it gives you that little chill kind of feel, and all of a sudden it stops and goes to something completely different.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, I always thought that was a mistake. Like,
I
just
did see that in some of the reviews felt the editing was not that great. It was kind of choppy in some scenes. What
I
I
mean,
get it.
I mean, you got to let that simmer a minute. I mean, for just a
Yeah.
little longer, at least than what it was. It just really changed too quickly. But I think I,
Hmm.
I think his character kind of stands out to me the most.
Yeah. I remember as a kid, like it's a very definite change of character. But I remember as a kid thinking that was from him drinking the deer's blood after they're in the hunting scene. And it wasn't until I was older that I realized it really doesn't happen until after he realizes his father died, and that's when it really kind of turns. So I think that was interesting. Like I don't know, it's just as a kid, it was
Well,
like it was the deer blood. The deer blood made him do it.
they also tell him though after he drinks the deer blood that I think Maddie told him my dad always said that you'll be a different man going forward.
Right, right,
So
yeah,
I mean
yeah.
that maybe you can look at it and say that kind of contributed to it in a sense. I mean,
Hmm. Hmm.
but probably more or less because his father got killed.
Yeah.
Because that's what he's talking about when he's sawing off the end of the
Hmm.
shotgun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I think Powers Booth's character's like that hate's gonna eat you up, or and he's like it keeps me warm. Like he knows he knows it's the hatred that's driving him or whatever. So, but yeah. All right, yeah, I'm trying not to jump into like iconic favorite scenes. We'll get there. Jed's the easy choice because he's the leader, but I really like Charlie Sheen's character. It's a little more subdued than what Charlie Sheen is kind of used to doing, so I like that. He's a little bit more, subdued of a character. I wish he's the one character I wish we would have saw a little bit more of. Like I wanted to see more of his connection with Jed. You see it really at the end, like towards the end of the movie, but I think it's there because like knowing the end of the movie, you know what's coming. But I would have liked to have seen that a little bit more established earlier in the movie. But yeah, C. Thomas Howell definitely has the most striking change of character, or the talk. You see it a little bit in Jed too, because the whole Jed being like the strong leader at the beginning, and he's trying to keep hold the scene where it's like hold the tears back, don't let him see you cry, turn it into something else or whatever. And then you get later where he's sitting by himself crying looking at the picture of his family, and it's like that's supposed to show that it's started to take its toll on him, and that he gets to the point where he doesn't want to fight anymore. Like he's ready to just
Right.
if I can save who's left and give them a chance to escape, then it's been worth it. And so
And I think the others had already kind of chimed in with that same thought before that even
hmm.
got there because Maddie's telling him that
Yeah.
some of the others don't feel like they want to do this anymore. They've kind of
Yeah.
lost the stomach
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, good stuff. All right, well, let's jump into iconic scene. If somebody says Red Dawn, what's the first thing that pops in your head?
See Thomas Howell with his gun in the air yelling Wolverine. That's the one thing that stands out the most.
Was that C. Thomas Howell in that
Yes.
scene? I thought it
Yes.
was the other one of the other kids. Are you sure?
Mhm. Just
Okay.
watched it today.
I did too, but I thought it was one of the kids. All right,
No,
that's
it's
true.
him. He's the one that he's the one that always takes the bandana, pulls it up over his face.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
rest of them don't really do that as much. I mean,
right.
but, he was up there. It's definitely him.
Okay. So for me, it's like trying to pick one is tough. The
Oh, there's
just the
several that
opening.
stand out for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah. The opening with the paratroopers, kind of falling in on the town. Mr. Teasdale going out and getting shot was pretty big. The one scene I think the other one that I think of with somebody says Red Dawn, it's the scene where Jennifer Grey she rides the bike at the gas
I
station,
was just thinking
and
that.
the tank guys are trying to hit on or whatever, like just take the basket or whatever. And so the basket of course has a bomb in it. It goes off, and then she starts running in the open field, and as she runs by, they're chasing after her, and then popping out of the ground are the guys, and they start shooting. And so like I remember like seeing that as a kid, like, oh my gosh, that is so cool, and popping up. And of course we all had the idea we were going to go find us a field and dig holes, and we gave up. We couldn't dig a hole. We were weak little 12-year-olds.
But we didn't have the patience for it anyway, you know?
Right,
That's a
exactly.
deep hole to dig and make perfectly
Yeah.
square that way where you can get in there
Hmm.
comfortably, then
Yeah.
pop up out of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. And then not to mention if we did, we'd be made to fill it right back in when we're done playing, and it wasn't worth the
Exactly.
effort.
All right, so what about favorite scenes or scenes that had great impact? Because I'm gonna change that a little bit on this one. So I do have like some favorite scenes, but there's scenes that like impacted me. Like I like even watching it again, I was like, ooh, I remember how this made me feel when I saw it the first time.
Definitely a great impact is when Daryl turned on him. He's got the
Yeah.
bug where he snuck into town because Jed said they couldn't, and his dad turned him in,
Mm-hmm.
and they
Yep.
made him swallow the bug to where he could track him
Mm-hmm.
down where everybody was, giving everybody up. And then,
Mm-hmm.
Jed deciding that that's it for both of them. He lines two of
Mm-hmm.
them up, and he wants everyone to pull up, pick up their guns. And Maddie's like, "No, we're not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
What makes us different from them and everything?" And he turns around and says, "Because we live here." And he turns around and he shoots
Mm-hmm.
the Russian guy,
Right.
but he can't pull the trigger on Daryl.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then C. Thomas Howell's kid just walks up there and lifts up the gun and pop, pop, pop.
Yeah, with like no emotion,
Like, just zero
just
emotion
straight up.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
just still he's just cold-hearted at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And then you
Mm-hmm.
see Daryl come up to him and grab him, kinda pull his face mask halfway down as
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
slides down and blood's all over his white.
Mhm, mhm,
That's just really stood out to me and everything.
mhm. Yep. That's exactly the scene I was thinking of about the impact. And on the behind the scenes thing, C. Thomas Howell talks about that scene, and that like that was Milius's note for him. Like he told him, he's like, I don't want you to show any emotion. He was like, Jed is gonna be the one that's gonna be conflicted. I don't want to see any conflict in you. I just want you to like when you can tell that Jed's not gonna do it, you just go right up and just just take him out, jump on your horse and ride off. And he just thought that was like such a, it made such for a powerful scene. And he's like, how it turned out was just, turned out so well. And then, which I thought was interesting, he said, then the guy that played Daryl, he said, he had to, like, when they ride off, Daryl's still like the actor that's playing Daryl still laying there on the cold ground. He said it was also like 20 below zero that day when they were filming. So it was already like super cold, but he had to just lay there while they got the shot of them riding off. And he said, he told him later, he was like, man, he said it became surreal moment. I had this moment laying there, like, what if this wasn't a movie? What if this was real? I just got shot and was just going to lay on this hill until somebody found me, and like I'm just gonna die right here in the snow. And C. Thomas Howell was like, he's like, we all knew that it was a movie and that it wasn't real, but there were definitely certain surreal moments like, what if this did really happen? Like, how accurate would this be, or how would I really react in these situations? So, which I think is what made the movie stand out then, and what still makes it stand out now.
The part where they lined everybody up for execution too when they were on the
Yeah,
tanks,
yeah,
that was,
yeah.
a pretty impactful scene as well. They're
Mm-hmm.
sitting there, they've dug their own graves practically, they're lining them up, and then they start singing, what was it, America the Beautiful or something, or,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
you
Oh,
know
beautiful for spacious skies, yeah.
yeah, and then they just started unloading on them. Then you
Mhm.
see them do the next line of people too, and then they're showing close-ups, and I would have swore, and it could have been him filling an extra spot in the role too there, but I would have swore as they're going down the line, I saw the man that gave up his 2 granddaughters to Jed and Matt to take with them. I could have swore it looked just
I don't
like him in the line of
think
people.
so. 'Cause don't they meet up with him
They
later
do, that's
after
what
that?
they
Okay,
do.
yeah, yeah.
It's like around
Yeah.
Christmas time or something, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah,
But that's why
yeah.
I said it looked just like him, unless he was doing some kinda double duty for him or something and thinking maybe the camera's going by so quick nobody will pay attention and notice, and then you see, Jed and Matt's dad is out there
Yeah, that's the one that I recognized.
just staring straight ahead, just waiting because he knows what's coming, and
Mhm.
takes a moment, I think, to spit on the ground in front of him probably, but I think that was all he did.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was kind of an impactful scene as well, and then that led to the big, at the camp where he's telling them to turn it into something else,
Mhm.
change it,
Mhm.
a lot of emotion going on there for what they just witnessed and found out and everything, so it's got some strong scenes in it.
Yeah, that scene I was watching on the behind the scenes thing, Charlie Sheen was telling the story about, this was being his first movie, and even Powers Booth said, like, Charlie Sheen would come up to him a lot, be like, "Hey, man, am I doing okay? Am I good in this?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be good." And so he was saying he had, like, after that scene where he sees the parents get shot down, and then there's a scene he had, like, a long monologue scene, like, telling everybody back at the camp what happened, and he's like, "I felt like I really nailed it, and, like, that was the only time I felt like I really gave the performance that was I was made to do."
It
He
wasn't in the
said, and then
movie.
they went to the premiere, and it wasn't there, and he looked at his dad, like, his dad, Martin Sheen, was like, "Why did they cut it? Like, what why did they cut that?" He was like, "Well, son, sometimes in a movie, you don't have to tell the audience what they just saw. So it really wasn't a necessary scene. So that's probably why I got cut." He was like, that makes sense. Cause he said it cuts to the line, like Jed's line is like literally the next thing after his speech. So like they cut all the way to like the last line he said, and then it cuts into where he finished talking. So
And
I
then
was
there's
like,
also the thing where you gotta trim down some minutes sometimes
oh
also,
yeah, 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 yeah. Gotta keep the pace. Keep the pace. All right, well, let's jump into some scenes and trivia. We may think of some other scenes as we're going. As most people know, this was the first film released with a PG-13 rating. A Flamingo Kid, the first film to actually get the rating, was not released until 5 months after this came out. So that's why, even though it was technically the first one to get the rating, it wasn't released in theaters before Red Dawn. The National Coalition on Television the National Coalition on Television Violence deemed Red Dawn, quote unquote, the most violent movie ever made. They said it contained 134 acts of violence an hour, and they gave it the rating of X. They said this summer's releases are the most violent in the history of the industry, averaging 28.5 violent acts an hour. But they also gave an X rating to Gremlins and Indiana Jones: The Temple of Doom, which were the two movies that basically helped create the PG-13 rating. I will say, like, watching it again, it for the violent content, it does lean a little bit on the R side, but it's really not as bloody as I thought it would be. Like, you see some, but it's not over the top. And of course, the way movies are made today, I mean, we're totally desensitized to it at this point as, 50-year-old guys. But even going back and watching it, I can see how it caused a stir for parents that their 13-year-old kids are seeing people getting blown up or, well,
So
yeah.
like in Raiders of the Lost Ark, we can watch people's faces and bodies melting away
Oh,
into
yeah. Yeah.
nothing, but
Not a problem.
with
Well,
Red
that's fake.
Dawn, we can't see some gunshots happening and somebody getting
Right.
killed, and
Right. Well, that was a thing back then. We knew that was a melted head. Like, we knew that wasn't somebody's real face. So, but yeah, anyway, let's see.
I do have a favorite trivia from it.
Go for it. Yeah.
Because
That might be the one I'm about
if
to.
it was to happen today, that person would have probably got shot in the tree he was hanging from. But 5
Yeah.
of the 36 paratroopers in the beginning of the film got blown as much as a mile off course during the filming, and one got stuck in a tree and had to convince locals he was not really an enemy soldier dropping
Yeah.
in on
Yeah.
them. And
I did have that one on here.
I don't know if I remember or not that they actually, had guns on him or not, but I mean, it took a lot of convincing to make them believe. that he was
Mhm.
not a bad person. They're filming a movie and he got blown off course. That was to happen today with, some of the, gun happy people that we do have.
Mhm.
If you're in
Yeah.
a area where it's not, you know, very populated, we'll say, and
Mhm.
people are very protective of their land and they, what they got there, and you come
Mhm.
floating down looking like a Russian soldier, a lot of people probably shoot first and ask questions later.
Yeah, I did read, like, when they had the Russian tanks roll into town, like, the FBI they did say the FBI showed up and was like, "Wanna know where the tanks came from," and before they realized it was for a movie, so, the other thing I thought was cool was, like, this is one of the rare movies where all of the explosions were real, like, none of it was with miniatures, none of it was, like and, of course, it was all practical effects back then, but, like, they really blew stuff up, like, there was nothing that was a model that they used instead. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So the upbeat epilogue showing partisan rock with the voiceover explaining that America eventually won the war was added at the studio's insistence. John Milius, for his part, viewed the ending as darkly ironic, suggesting that the character's struggles were ultimately reduced to a lonely monument, which I did. Yeah, I kind of get that a little bit. Is this kind of like it feels kind of throwaway a little bit, like it's not like that's all they got, but
Yeah.
once again, if it was thrown at the last minute, they didn't have enough time to make it something a little bit more formal. So,
Do you see that the plot of a Soviet and Cuban invasion from Mexico was based on a CIA and War College
mhm,
study of USA
mhm,
weaknesses at the time?
yep, yep. So there were a few deleted scenes and some that you actually see in the trailer. On the original trailer and on the Laserdisc release includes a scene in which a tank rolls up to a McDonald's where enemy soldiers are eating. The scene did not appear in the final cut and was likely removed due to a mass shooting at a McDonald's in San Ysidro, California, a few weeks before the film opened. So yeah, I did go back and watch the trailer, and there is it's a very short scene, not much there. And there's also the part of the scene that there was actually a love scene between Leah Thompson and Powers Booth's characters that was cut after preview audiences found the age difference uncomfortable. But
Yeah.
Leah Thompson said that she was very disappointed. It wasn't an actual love scene. She said it really didn't show anything, but she basically the scene was basically that she went to Powers Booth. They had this conversation, and she told him that she was afraid of dying and never had made love with anyone before. And she asked him if he'd be the one to make love to her, and so he was like, okay. And then it just kind of shows them kind of like leaning over, and that was the end of the scene. But she said that was so. Then the scene of like him outside with his little flowers, and she runs up with the flowers and runs off. That was supposed to be the scene like the after that. And so she felt like it gave a little bit more about her character because she said it was always alluded to that like her and Jennifer Grey's character had been either like sexually assaulted or raped by the Russians before they got to their grandfather.
Yeah, he did mention that when he was dropping them off with Jet. He said that they tried to have their
Mm,
way with him.
yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah. Do you know Red Dawn was the code name for the military operation that captured
hmm
Saddam Hussein?
that is yes, I do. I did
Uh,
have that on my notes as
that was
well.
a pretty cool one.
And during the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine, some abandoned Russian tanks in Ukraine were spray painted with Wolverines across it in homage to this movie.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right, well, let's jump into box office and critical reception, start wrapping this puppy up. Red Dawn was released in the United States on August 10th, 1984, and took the #1 spot at the box office its opening weekend behind holdovers Ghostbusters, Purple Rain, and Revenge of the Nerds in slot 2, 3, and 4, respectively. It beat out two other new releases for the week, Cloak and Dagger, which debuted at #7, and The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai at #16. It remained in the top 10 for 6 weeks and became the 20th highest grossing film of 1984. So it did well. All right, it's time to take a look at how well this 80s flick holds up today. Rewatchability nostalgia meter is our way of measuring how enjoyable a movie is for repeat viewings along with the waves of nostalgia it brings. Here's how it works. It's a 1 to 10 scale. Any number between 1 and 10 will do, but here are a few parameters to help you decide. At the bottom of the meter, a number 1 means I saw it once and that was enough. In the middle is at a number 5 is a good rewatch every couple of years or more. And the highly coveted number 10 at the top of the meter is highly rewatchable and full of nostalgia. So, Chris, where does Red Dawn from 1984 rank for you on the rewatchability nostalgia meter?
I still love the action to it, but for the simple fact that there was some quick edits that I felt should have gone a little bit longer, and the plot holes that we had to wonder about and make up our own minds, it drives my score down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna give it like a 7.5.
Okay. Okay. That's actually lower than I thought it was going to be. For me, I'm going to give it a solid 8. I think it's very high on nostalgia for me. So that really pushes it up there. But because it's not one that I watch every year, or maybe every other year, I can't, bump it up too high. But it is one that I do like to watch, like, every couple of years, like maybe every 2 or 3 years, maybe every 3 or 4 years. But it's such a good movie. Like, really enjoyed rewatching it again for the podcast, and makes me miss Patrick Swayze. What a great actor he was. It really showed in this movie. You saw his star power, seeing, these young, fresh faces before they, Charlie Sheen, Leah Thompson. It's funny to see Leah Thompson is because she's so, like, they made her so plain faced, like no makeup, like no, like her lips are the same color as her face, like, but she's still really pretty. Like, she still looks like Jennifer Grey kind of looks like Jennifer Grey, but like Leah Thompson is almost unrecognizable unless you really know who she is.
Right.
But I think their performances are good. I think it's well made. Yeah, it is. There are some plot holes and it gets a little unbelievable at times, but I think the story is there. I like that it gives, like we said, an even perspective. That I think Milius is right. If you watch this the right way, or not the right way, if you watch this in a certain way, you can see how it is, like, for both sides to say, is this really what we want to do? Do we really want to invade and have teenagers fighting, So, but anyway, that's my thought anyway. So I give it an 8. You give it a 7. Still ranks high on the nostalgia,
7.
rewatchability
Well,
nostalgia
you
meter.
you got to throw the half in now. Seven and
Okay,
a
seven and a
half.
half.
Because
Okay, so not too
I
far
kind
from
of
me.
feel bad that I didn't give it an 8, but I mean, because they made me wonder about a couple things, I got to knock them down to a half a notch
Yeah.
or something.
I gotcha. All right, well, let us know where you think Red Dawn should rank on the rewatchability and nostalgia meter. You can send us an email, reach out to us on social media, or you can leave us a comment right here in the comment sections on YouTube if you're watching the video. Well, Chris, I want to thank you for joining. Always a pleasure to have you on the show, my friend. Please tell me about what's going on over at Retro Life for You podcast. What you got coming up here in September?
Let's see. The current week right now, as we're recording this, is Enemy Mine. Upcoming next week is going to be Rounders.
Oh, yeah. Matt Damon and
John
somebody else.
Malkovich and Edward Norton, John Turturro.
Edward Norton, that's the other one. That's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah. And then I believe at that point, if my dates are correct, that starts the month of October, which is all horror movies for us this year. But we're going with strictly 90s horror movies this time. We're not going to mix it up like last year.
Yeah, the resurgence of the horror movie of the mid to late 80s. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably going to throw, like I said, we're going to throw some Scream in there, some I Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legend, The Faculty, and possibly Candyman. I think that might be the other one.
Okay. Cool. Very cool. And if you didn't catch his episode where he got to interview Keith Coogan again for the second time, that was a great episode that I listened to this past week. So
yeah, we did.
Always good to hear Keith talking about, which made me want to watch Toy Soldiers again. And then watching this made me want to watch Toy Soldiers again even more. So I'll probably watch that sometime this week.
Now, he did say that he could possibly be talked into coming back on to do another movie again. I was thinking the one with, my gosh, is it John Cryer? Is that who it was?
Yes. Yeah, Hiding Out.
Hiding Out. I was thinking of maybe Hiding Out because I've already talked to him extensively about Adventures in Babysitting. And the other ones.
Yeah. Sounds good. I mean, I did a very brief interview with him a couple of years ago, so I haven't reached back out to him again. But maybe I'll do that too. Maybe we can get him to do another episode with us. Awesome. Well, definitely check out Retro Life for You podcast. Chris always does a good job with his show and has lots of interviews. He's done Cynthia Rothrock. I always mess up her last name. Did I say it right?
It's like a tongue twister almost, isn't it? But
Yeah,
yes,
it is.
Cynthia Rothrock and Keith Cook from
Yeah.
China O'Brien, and then her new movie, I think it's called Black Creek, or
Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank for sure. I think it's Black Creek.
Y'all talked about it in the episode.
Yeah, it's a pretty good movie. It's not an 80s movie, but it's a pretty good movie.
No, but yeah, if you like martial arts movies, definitely in that
She
vein.
is the female equivalent to Chuck Norris.
Yes, absolutely. And I've started following her on social media since you did the interview, and so it's cool to see her still kicking butt.
Does not look her age at all.
No, not at all. So, all right, well, give the podcast a listen, but I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Be sure to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Jump online and visit the website 80sflickflashback.com, and also our TeePublic store for some awesome 80s Flick Flashback merch and original designs. We just launched a new collection of designs inspired by previous episodes like Wildcats and Best of Times, with some good football movies you haven't watched, and Halloween 3, which we just covered over the summer. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I'm Tim Williams for the 80s Flick Flashback podcast. Wolverines!